Okay, so Sweden have just beaten Denmark 6-1 to book their place in the Women's Nations League semi-finals. I'm going to be speaking about the tweaks Gerhardsson made to his system in possession and also the press out of possession and what were the triggers for that and how that basically destroyed Denmark. Sorry, Denmark. Okay, so this is the starting 11 that Gerhardsson picked for this game against Denmark. Quite a few changes from the one against Italy. Sembrant coming in for the suspended Eriksson. Asllani came back in. Blackstenius back in, and a few others. Lundkvist came in for Holmberg. Now Holmberg had such a good game versus Italy, and I think I saw a lot of people online quite annoyed about this change. And I'm going to explain kind of why Gerhardsson did it. And obviously Holmberg did play really well, but I don't think she could have performed the role that Hannah Lundkvist played in this game. So yeah, we'll get to that. And this is the kind of classic Gerhardsson 4-2-3-1. We know that at times we have seen, like we saw this a bit at the World Cup with Natalie Bjorn, and we've seen it at other times where the right back kind of can almost slot into a back three when you're in possession. We haven't seen that for a while. For example, versus Italy, Holmberg was the right back was right up there on the touchline, and so we haven't seen this right back tucking in to make kind of an extra centre back for quite a while. But it was the change that Gerhardsson made for this game, and it really worked. Okay, so this is kind of the shape that we set up with in possession. Okay, that's different to out of possession. I'll talk about that later. But as you can see, Hannah Lundkvist here tucks in as almost like a right centre back. You've got Natalie Bjorn and Sembrant who then shift over, and Jona Andersson comes up to be almost like a left winger. You've got Kannerid down here. She is always hugging the touchline. So you, I've done a little picture of her there. So don't worry, she's not being forgotten. But yeah, she's just not in shot. And then Asllani and Rolf are here as like 2 10s behind Blackstenius, and then you've got your 2 centre midfielders. So as you can see, I've labelled this here. This is our back four, and it's like, you know, the elbow back four. We see lots of teams do this. This is a very popular shape, this 3-2-4-1. Very popular shape with lots of teams in like men's football. Aston Villa screaming out to me right now when I think of the elbow back four. But even the 3-2-4-1 is something, you know, like Man City have done lots. So I'm almost surprised Gerhardsson has kind of gone away with it, and we've seen the right back become a lot more like a traditional right back recently. And the performances, we haven't been great as a team. Again, Holmberg played right back versus Italy, and as you can see, she got high up the pitch. Now, look, Lundkvist, you might be like, oh, she's still got high up the pitch, and yes, she did. She still overlapped. She still took all the throw-ins, which got her up. But most of the time when we were building up, she was in this position here, and this was very, very important, and I will get to as to why. But as you can see, there's a bit more of a red down here, and she was kind of in this slot here, whereas Natalie Bjorn was more in the centre, and Sembrant's heat map, which I haven't got, is a lot more over to the left than you'd expect from a traditional centre-back. Just one other thing about the in possession shape was that sometimes yes, it was the 3 and then the 2 centre midfielders, but also what we saw is almost this 3-1 shape, and then the 5 and then the striker. So Angeldal pushed up and kind of rotated a lot with Asllani and Rolfo in this line that I've drawn, and Zigiotti Olme almost was kind of a single pivot at times. We kind of switched between the box midfield, as you can see here, the box between the 2 centre midfielders and the 2 attacking midfielders, and then this kind of almost, I don't know, kite? Should we call that a kite? You know, a diamond, I guess. And again, you see here Zigiotti Olme, and this, to be fair, this 3-1 is something we saw PSG, this kind of 3 centre backs and a 1 pivot, saw PSG do use very well in the Champions League final, in the men's Champions League final, just gone. So, you know, this is an advanced system. Again, you see Zigiotti Olme is kind of alone with Angeldal all the way up here. Again, with the 3 10s. This was when Janogy came on, and you've got Kannerid, the right winger here, and the left back Andersson over here. Yeah, again, that's my box. And this is, yeah, just the general shape. Sometimes Angeldal also came out wide and Kannerid tucked in. There's a lot of kind of movement in this system of Sweden. Now the reason why Hanna Lundkvist tucking in was so important is it's allowed, there was these three centre backs that could make these progressive passes into the four in midfield, and especially the attacking midfielders Asllani here and Rolfa, who was taking up that positions between the opposition defence and midfield. Okay, and that's where we want the ball, and then they could make combinations round the corners to Kannerid or Blackstenius in behind who are making the runs. So by having an extra player in Lundkvist coming up to help with the build up here, it allowed us to make those cutting line passes through Denmark, you know, and therefore go through them and then make the passes round, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to show you examples of Lundkvist making these progressive passes, and then the players that we have in our box midfield, those attacking midfielders, whether that was Angeldal, Asllani or Rolfo, who we'll talk about, that injury is so gutting. Let's hope it's nothing too serious. And then Yanogi, who came on for Rolfo. You see Lundkvist gets the ball here. This was 26 seconds into the match, as you can see from the time. This was the first goal. It's a fairly simple pass into Angeldal, but it's the way it was almost kind of up back through. It's where Lundkvist passes it up to Angeldal, who lays it back to Zigiotti Olme, who then goes through. Now this isn't really a through ball to Asllani, it's more direct, but it's almost like two up back throughs in consecutive motion. Again, so Zigiotti Olme goes up to Asllani, who lays it off, you know, and these are Asllani's in a real, like, you know, almost like a killer position here, where the defender has to go run into her and gets drawn into her here to try and get the ball off her. The midfielders are a bit in kind of no man's land. This player here, and it goes to Asllani, who then can lay it off to Rolfo, who then so that's up and then back to Rolfo and then through for Blackstenius, who then is through on goal and scores. Maybe the goalkeeper could have done slightly better for that goal, but I hope you get the picture of that kind of. We were doing that a lot, where, you know, we'd go up to a player, would lay it off, and then we try and through ball, and we do that a lot with kind of the combinations out wide with Kannerid. We saw that a bit less in this game. Like, there wasn't as much emphasis on the right hand side. Usually, it's just the right hand side, and that will be. I'll make a video on that in the lead up to the Euros. But yeah, this is another example. Just those progressive passes up the pitch. Natalie Bjorn. Again, you've got Zigiotti Olme's gone out wide here almost. Angeldal, and we've got the three kind of here, which I spoke about, who are occupying those deadly positions. Sorry, quite an extreme word, but those half spaces kind of in between, like, who's going to pick her up? Who's going to pick Asllani up there? Rolfo comes. I just wanted to come in and say I'm really sorry if I sound like I keep saying Rolfo. I know it's pronounced Rolfa. It just keeps sounding like Rolfo. So I just want to say that if anyone's getting a bit annoyed by that, because it's annoying me watching it back. It's quite deep, so she doesn't receive it between the midfield and defence, but what she is good, she's a very talented player for Barcelona who can get it, wiggle round a player, and then go pass it through over the top to Anderson, who's our left back, who's occupying high on the left wing, who then has space to go forward and hopefully create a cross for a chance. I can't fully remember how this one ended, but is another one with Lundkvist again in that deeper role. Kind of, you know, she still did progress up the pitch, but sometimes she was just along with the centre backs. And this is a really nice ball to Asllani, who's in a great position again. And this is an example of, again, the up back through. So she goes up to Asllani, who lays it off to Angeldal, who then does a through ball over to Anderson, who's in the switch to Anderson, who's in loads of space over there. And you can see the looping ball over here. And that is great. Okay, so now I want to talk about us out of possession, okay, and our pressing game. So out of possession, we do set up in a 4-4-2, as you can see. So there's the four defenders behind this. Here's the four midfielders, the two centre midfielders, Kannerid the right wing, Rolfo the left wing, and Asllani goes up top with Blackstenius to form a 2. Okay, right now what our team usually does is we kind of we wait first. So we can go trigger off Asllani. Asllani can just choose, okay, right, we're going to go press, and everyone follows. But right now we're just waiting. And what we waited for a lot of the time was for the ball, for Denmark to try and play the ball into one of their centre midfielders. You see they have 2 here. And that was when we pounced. And they really struggled to ever get any joy from passing through into centre midfield. And that was what they were trying to do. Denmark were constantly trying to play out from the back. And you can't just play it along your centre backs. You've got to try and get it into the midfield, but we had them. We had an answer for that pretty much every time. So we'll come back to that picture there. Here's just an example. We were in our 4-4-2 shape, and a ball is sent into the midfield, and Zigiotti Olme is then off, like sprinting, and she wins it. Asllani gets it, and then we go. Okay, here's another example. The ball is played from out wide into one of the centre midfielders. Again, Zigiotti Olme is off. She wins the ball back, and then we're off again with Blackstenius. Okay, back to this picture where we're waiting in the 4-4-2. Okay, so the ball is played out wide to one of their centre back over here. As you can see, she goes up the pitch, and then she's aiming to make quite an ambitious ball over here. But again, Zigiotti Olme, when she knows the ball is going to come into the centre, is when she goes, and she gets a brilliant intercept. This is a third one in literally a few minutes. And she wins it back, and then Blackstenius is away. Okay. Another example, here we are in our 4-4-2 shape. Again, we're just waiting. You know, we're not going crazy. Like sometimes we went quite crazy, but most of the time we wait in this shape, and then the Danish goalkeeper plays it into midfield, and Angeldal is now off, pressuring their player, and they've really got limited options because of the pressure on them. Here is the 4-4-2 shape. This is the general shape we were in. Again, you see their defender out here passes into the middle. You see she's pretty isolated because we've got our 2 striker and attacking midfielder, then the 2 centre midfielders, and again, then that's Zigiotti Olme. It's played into the centre, and Zigiotti Olme is she's I was about to say miles away. She's obviously not miles away, but she's pretty far away. Asllani coming from this side as well, and they just squish her, win her back. Squish her is a bit of a weird term, but they crowd her out, and the Danish player loses it, and then Asllani's away. Another common trigger for our press is when we lose possession. So here, Asllani's just lost the ball to a Danish player, and we press. So she's just got it there. You can see she's fallen over. She's annoyed she hasn't got a free kick, and the Danish player wins it here, and then we go. So you can see everyone, Lundkvist as well, Kannerid, all from all angles, and we win it back, and then Angeldal is away, and this is when it only is 2-0, and this is what led to her giving it to Blackstenius, who then laid it off, and a beautiful strike made it 3-0. Okay, so this is another example. The ball is currently in the air here. It's lofted in. It's headed away from one of the Danish, and again here, and then Rolfo is ready. She was here, and then she's ready to pounce on the Danish player again, and she wins it back. Okay, and I just also wanted to say, it wasn't just when they passed into the centre midfielders, and it wasn't just when we lost possession. We did sometimes also just press, and that came from a trigger from Asllani, which it usually is. That's very common. Maybe something I'll go through in another video more generally. Again, here's the Danish. Asllani feels like she can almost squeeze them on one side of the pitch and block them in, and they try and play, and Asllani goes, and Rolfo then goes on to the next player, and they eventually lump it up the pitch to Sembrand, and we win it back. Okay, so that was really kind of the backbone of how we won. So as Gerhardsson's tweaked the system to, it was still a 4 at the back, because Lundkvist still got up on that right hand side, but she really did a lot of the time in possession, did come a bit narrower and allowed us to build up. Got Anderson wider, and this is important because it allows Rolfo, one of our most clinical players, to get inside into those more dangerous positions alongside Asllani and Angeldal. and kept Kannerud out wide. And it was a very as we have seen this before a lot in the World Cup, more group stages in the World Cup. Um, but it was really it really helped us to progress the ball up the pitch and find the dangerous players in the dangerous areas, if that makes sense. And I would also say that the press was the most vital part of this performance, and the out of possession stuff from all the players really. And it was just such a connected possession, because even Jona Andersson and Lundkvist found themselves really high up on the pitch sometimes, and the two centre midfielders Angeldal and Zigiotti Olme just were just immense in knowing when to go. So I do think we were a much better team when we really kind of don't give the opposition much peace, and we do that a lot, but sometimes we do sink back into a lower block as well. But this was a really important performance for us, because I don't think we've seen this kind of performance for a while, and it was obviously a very strong team that Gerhardsson put out. I am slightly annoyed, can I just say, with SofaScore. This is not the formation we're playing. Like Kannerud here, Asllani as a striker. Like, what is this? Like, it's pretty bad from SofaScore. Other than that, I do like SofaScore. Um, I do want to just quickly mention Rolfa. Big shame she went off injured. We know how good she is. I really don't want to make a video, but about this. But if she is out, I will make a video about who could replace her in this team. But honestly, no one is like her. No one can truly replace Fridolina Rolfa. I'm leaning towards maybe someone like Hurtig. I don't think Janogy had the same effect, but it's tough. It is tough. But I think if all these players can stay fit, we've got a great chance going into the Euros. And yeah, such a good performance. Really proud of Stina as well, getting a hat trick. That will be great for her confidence as well after scoring the winning goal in the Champions League final. But yeah, so if you like this kind of video, then yeah, I can definitely make more. I'll be making more videos in the lead up to the Euros around kind of the squad, but also maybe some of Gerhardsson's tactics. But yeah, I'll see you for another one.